What's up, guys? This is Bam Malone, and I'm sitting here drinking at Moe's.
All right, everybody, taking time out before we get this show started. I want to thank Reaper Apparel for having Drinkin' Mo's be a brand ambassador for their clothing line. They got good stuff. They got t-shirts, they got hoodies, they got beanies, they got lots of great stuff, encouraging everybody to break out of their comfort zone, live their best self, and hey, it's something I try to live every day. Now, be sure when you go and you're filling out your order, use the code Drinkin' at Moe's, get 10% off, and the link and the code will both be in the description. Let's fucking go.
All right, everybody. Welcome, Drinkin' at Moe's. Big Mo here. You know the drill by now. YouTube, like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good shit, because YouTube's algorithm is a pain in the ass, where most places you can find audio podcasts too. Today, I'm excited to have with me Bam Malone. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm on the road. I'm heading to Vicksburg, Mississippi. Life is good. I'm living the dream. Can't complain, man.
I was gonna say, I saw that, and funny thing that it's your show tonight in Vicksburg. I know my friends over at Metroplex got their big show tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to Revolver, so it's a pretty big night for wrestling all around.
Yeah. It seems MPX has something going. I believe every Saturday. And,
yeah, I want to say every week. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if how long they've been continuous, but they have to be the longest running weekly show. Maybe in the state of Texas, maybe even more than that. But
yeah, as far as running weekly content,
agreed.
Yeah, they gotta be.
Yeah, so kudos to those guys to be able to run a weekly show and keep everything together and keep everybody involved. So kudos to those guys.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I've had nothing but great interactions with them, even having Matthew Palmer on and actually meeting him in person at many Revolver shows. So all the respect to those guys. And you know what, before I get into my first question, it's funny, I guess I forgot I didn't see the state on the poster with Vicksburg. Is, I mean, who knows? There's probably plenty of Vicksburgs around, but Mississippi, we got a little connection there with me personally, because my ship I was on in the Navy, was actually built in Pascagoula, Mississippi.
Okay, gotcha.
So most of my first year in the Navy was spent down in that area, from Mississippi over to Pensacola, Florida, that whole area.
Okay. Yeah, my best friend was in the Navy, and I want to say his last year or maybe 2 years, he was in Gulfport, Mississippi.
Yep, I've been through there many a time.
Yes, sir.
So the first thing I like to start off with everybody with is, what got you started as a fan, and then what got you deciding to finally make that leap into the business?
So I told this story just the other day, and I smile and laugh at it.
Oh, looks like you cut out there for a second. I'm gonna pause. All right, technical difficulties happen, but we were talking about your start as a fan, and then what got you to make the leap into the business.
Yeah, my parents, I was maybe 5 or 6 years old. My parents would take me to a small, like locally owned video store. And they would rent whatever movie they wanted to see. And I'll never forget, it was WrestleMania. I want to say triangular ladder match with the
Ah, yeah.
Hardys. Yep, the Hardys, Edge and Christian, and the Dudleys. And that was the first thing I ever witnessed wrestling wise. And my takeaways were the guy in green pants with long blonde hair, crazy rainbow hair that would jump off of stuff was even cooler.
Oh, yeah.
And it ended up being Edge and Jeff Hardy, and ever since Monday and every Thursday at that time for SmackDown, and out and started doing myself. And, once I got into later middle school, early high school, really didn't have many friends that were into it, so I kind of fell out of it. Then my sophomore year, I had a football coach come to my school. A gentleman's name is Brett Barnes. He was one of Booker T's very first students down in Houston.
Okay.
And he was Booker's first champion for his promotion. Now it's ROW. I can't remember exactly what it was called back then, but so that kind of piqued my interest again. And he ended up being my track coach that year. And I would go and I did discus and shot put. So he was my throwing coach. But I spent the majority of the time just talking about wrestling with him. And he was just telling me different stories. And that was the first night in years. I went home that night and I watched Raw for the first time. And I instantly got hooked back in again as a fan. But this time I was like, maybe this is something that I could pursue myself. And I think at one point or another, every little boy's dream between the ages of maybe 8 to 12 is to be a professional wrestler or a professional athlete of some sort.
Yeah, I've been there myself.
Yep. So I went to Brett about it and told him, hey, this is something I'm considering doing. And he told me, he was like, that's great. He was like, yeah, I think you have the look. I think you have the height, the size. And so he was like, finish out your senior year of football. And once you finish out your senior year, I'll help you look for somewhere to train. Well, I was about to start spring training my junior year. So it's towards the end of my junior year. And I started on varsity as a freshman and sophomore. I was, I thought I was going to go play Division I football somewhere and, do something with that. First day of spring training, I went through everything as normal. And the next day I went to the head coach and turned in my pads. And when he asked why, I told him that I wanted to pursue professional wrestling. He laughed in my face. And I think I almost maybe caught a little heat for Brett, because I think obviously they knew that he was the one that I was, communicating with about this wrestling, crazy wrestling dream. So, the coaches, I went from being one of the coaches' favorites to, they just completely ignored me and acted like I basically didn't exist, which was fine. They were all terrible coaches and got fired anyway. So I think I came out the real winner in that situation.
Nope, I would say so.
Yep. So Brett got me hooked up with the guys at CWF, the Christian Wrestling Federation. They run in the Rockwall area. We still run monthly shows now in Fate, which is right outside of Rockwall. But he got me linked up with those guys because he had already had connections with them and had been doing shows for them. And he knew it was a good, solid group of guys. They weren't just going to take advantage of me and take my money. And the cool thing about them was they also gave me a spare set of keys to the building. So Brett and I would go train with them every Monday. But then Brett and I, either, early Saturday mornings or, early Sunday mornings, we'd go up there and do one-on-one stuff. So I was getting the training from the CWF guys, but then also getting the additional one-on-one stuff from him. So he's the biggest help that I've ever had. I wouldn't have really known where to get started. I didn't know that the world of independent professional wrestling was quite what it was. You know, I was just a kid that was a WWE fan. So
Yeah.
there was a whole world of wrestling that I didn't even know existed. Without him, I probably wouldn't have found it, you know, especially not as easily as I found it.
Oh, yeah, no, I can only imagine. I know for myself, when it comes to watching independent wrestling, I didn't get started until I was literally in San Diego where I was stationed with the Navy. And like I had heard about some of the independent stuff down in Southern California. So I'm like, oh, maybe there's something here. I wouldn't have to
Yeah.
travel way up to LA for. So I
Uh-huh.
just Googled it and then boom, and then well, here I am now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
no, and
It's pretty crazy. And I mean, and it's fun, you know, like the independent professional wrestling shows, they're so much more intimate.
mm,
So that, you know, the younger fans get to be right up close and witness everything. You know, you're not having to sit in the cheap seats,
yeah,
and then, you know, a lot of times the independent guys, you know, a lot of us end up on TV, and so
mm,
you get to see everybody from where they started and see them up on TV. So it's cool. You know, you get to follow these guys' journeys um and tune in and watch, you know, from start to end.
oh yeah, because hell, I remember um, this was before the podcast was even a thought that I got the chance to be a special guest ring announcer for a friend's match one time. And coincidentally, the now Ruby Soho was on the card.
Yeah.
And, you know, now seeing her go from the independents to WWE, now to AEW, is like getting to follow basically a good chunk of her career and be like, man, I saw her before she was even on TV.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, and you almost get a sense of you get to go along the journey with her, right? You know, like you get
Oh, yeah.
to witness her from the beginning to where she's at now. So you're obviously going to be more invested in her. It's just cool. It's a little bit, you know, a little more behind the scenes, I guess maybe, but it's
Yeah.
definitely more intimate. You know, there's a lot of, you know, professional wrestling fans out there that still don't know about the independents. So
Yeah.
you know, I still think there's a lot of potential for, you know, untapped markets on, you know,
Mhm.
bringing wrestling fans and converting them into independent wrestling fans.
Oh, yeah. And I'm like, even when it comes to, you know, the big show, WrestleMania, it's becoming more than just WrestleMania. There's all these independent shows coming to the area where Mania is going to be, and then they they're bringing their best, and you know, people might uh, let's see, I might have lost you. All right, we're back. Like I was going into, yeah, WrestleMania is more than just the big show itself, all the independent shows. And you know, you might have fans running into people that, you know, one of the fans is there just for WrestleMania, but then they get into conversations and then they find out about this show and that show, and then they're like, well, dang, I might need to check that out. And then before you know it, you got new fans going to different shows, and it's a beautiful thing.
Exactly. Agreed.
Now, another thing I was curious about, and I always like hearing people talk about, is coming up with your in-ring persona. Now, the thing that I was noticing when putting my notes together was these three words coming up: gold, girls, glory.
Yeah.
Explain.
So I got to give credit where credit's due. That actually the original slogan, the idea behind it, came from my former tag team partner, Jackson Stone. Um, he just randomly said it one day in a promo and it kind of just stuck. It's the three G's of life, man. Gold, girls, and glory. With those three G's of life, that's all you need. So,
Hey,
I've obviously taken it and put my own spin on it, and using like the Motley Crue, the girls, girls, girls font, and having some fun with it, playing with it. But yeah, man, like I said, I got to give credit where credit's due. Jackson, was the one who originally came up with that, and I kind of took the ball and ran with it.
kind of funny how stuff works out like that sometimes.
Yeah.
Somebody gives the initial idea, and then somebody else just picks it up and runs with it.
Yeah, and at the time, we were tagging, so that was kind of one of our, slogans. Geez, God, we had so many different slogans with our tag. Our tag team name was BB and J. So for Bam Bam and Jackson, we were the Youth Gone Wild. We were Gold, Girls, and Glory. We were Young, Vicious, and Delicious. Yeah, we had all sorts of stuff going on.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Now, I believe this is the next show. Next thing I have in my notes here, I believe is this show that you're traveling on your way to right now, Bayou Independent Wrestling.
Yes, sir.
Ultimatum going up against Barrett Brown. What are we looking forward to there with people that might not be familiar with Bayou Independent Wrestling?
So BIW's been around. I want to say they've been around for close to, if not 20 years now. We run in Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi. He's even done some stuff in Texas before. He has his towns that will hit, periodically throughout the year and kind of make a little circuit out of it. But I originally started working for BIW back in 2018, and he brought me in just almost more as a tryout. He brought me in on somebody's good word, and ever since then, I've been a part of the roster. So the promoter's name is Josh Newell. He's one of the hardest working promoters I've ever met in my entire life. He still goes out. He flyers towns. He does everything old school, and all his shows draw. It shows. I mean, he has upwards to 4, 5, 6, even 700 people at these shows. It's because he busts his tail and market and promotes and doesn't just rely on Facebook marketing. He old school, because that's, at the end of the day, that's going to work. If you're putting up flyers in these small towns and you're getting half, sometimes even 3/4 of the crowd to come to the shows. We did a show in Fountain Hill, Arkansas. The population of Fountain Hill, Arkansas was 108 people. And we drew about 450 people at that show. So we
basically doubled the population of the town.
Yep. Yeah. We drew the entire town plus some. So
that is something. Like I love hearing little bits and backstories like that, because it just shows how special some places and some promotions can be. Like when you can do stuff like that, not just relying on the social media stuff, which, I mean, there to some extent social media and all that is important, but when you can do that, not just with that, and also doubling down on like the old school mentality of it, of flyering towns and all that, dude, that's amazing.
Yeah. And the Facebook, you have to advertise on social media, and that's the thing, like you have to do all of it, right?
Yeah.
You can't just advertise on social media, because how are people going to find a page if they don't even know that it exists? So that's where a lot of promoters, I feel like, come up short, is they just market on social media. Well, if people don't know it exists, then how are they supposed to find it? Now, if you're leaving a restaurant at your local small town and you see a wrestling flyer, well, then you can go on social media, find the flyer, and then now you're following the company.
Exactly. And heck, for those people that, I know it might seem funny to some people talking about people out there not having any social media. You have that out there.
You
So,
do, and yeah, and especially in some of the smaller towns that we do run. Not everybody has Facebook, not everybody has Instagram, so you just can't rely on that. But they are going to have to go to the grocery store, and when they go to the grocery store and see that flyer on the door, well, then we got them.
yep, you got them right there because hell, the small town fans, you know, don't really have stuff like that. You know, the big companies coming their way. So when they're like, "Oh, I'm a fan
Exactly,
of wrestling, but I didn't know about these guys. I might need to go check them out." And the boom, you got them.
exactly. Yep.
So what are you looking forward to tonight with this show? Going up against Barrett Brown, I believe for a title, if I'm remembering
We
correctly.
are, yeah. So I am the Southern Heritage Heavyweight Champion. I won that title from Angel Camacho last November. So this is my second title defense. My first title defense was against Moonshine Mantell. So I got Moonshine Mantell and Barrett Brown back to back. So there's no easy days when you're the champ, I guess. But
I
Barrett,
was gonna say, yeah,
yeah,
especially knowing what I do about Moonshine Mantell,
yeah,
he's not easy pickings there.
not at all. No, he's a beast. But so is Barrett. There's a reason that Barrett has been doing what he's been doing with New Japan, and he's one of the best. I would say he's one of the best unsigned talents in the world. Um, and Barrett's one of my favorite opponents. We always have great matches together. He's extremely creative. So I'm really looking forward to. This is probably the 50th or 60th time that we've wrestled each other. Um, I will say though, I have yet to have a one-on-one victory against him.
Ooh,
So even though I'm coming in as the champ, I still have a little bit of that chip on my shoulder. So
yeah.
I'm really looking forward to putting that to rest and having a good night.
Oh yeah, no, I'll definitely be looking forward to hearing how that goes. Like,
Yes, sir.
definitely keep me posted. I mean, I'm gonna be somewhat preoccupied tonight, but I definitely got places outside of Revolver that I'm gonna be keeping an eye on. That match of yours tonight definitely on the list. Now, another promotion, like I love in doing this podcast, I have been introduced to plenty of wrestlers, plenty of promotions that I might not have been aware of before it. And another one that, you know, it definitely came up after, but King of Sports Championship Wrestling was another place that I've seen you advertise. And what
Yes,
for
sir.
those that might not be as familiar with them, what have you got going on there?
So King of Sports, it's unique. What they do there, they always work with the school districts. We do a lot of shows in East Texas. Um, we just did a show last Thursday in Leonard, Texas. It was for their junior high. Um, it was the final day of school before spring break.
Okay.
So they had the whole entire seventh and eighth grade class jammed into the gym, and we did a wrestling show for them. And man, those kids couldn't have been any louder. They're amped up. We're the very last thing that they're doing before spring break. That might have been one of the loudest crowds I have ever been in front of. It time I was standing in the middle of the ring, and when you're at a concert or you're somewhere, you can hear your eardrums ring.
Yep.
I tell you what, man, those kids screamed, and I, for the first time, felt my eardrums ring in the wrestling ring, and I was like, man, this is cool.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. I know I would have been right along with them if something like that came to my school. And because I mean, I was the huge fan that I was, and I mean, I grew up on, like, hell, behind me, Head Shrinker Fatu figure that I got signed by
Yeah.
Rikishi. Rikishi as Head Shrinker Fatu was in my first ever WWE show I ever went to. So, like, I just remember I was crazy hyped for that. But to think of a promotion coming to my school and doing a show,
Yep.
man, I by the end of that show, I would not have had a voice.
And most of them didn't.
I would imagine, from everything you've been
Yeah.
describing, I would imagine not very many kids in attendance there had a voice by the end of that.
No, not at all. And King of Sports does a really cool thing too. Like they've worked with different booster clubs for different school districts. So um a couple of years back we did a show and it was for the football booster. So we had all the football kids there and all their parents and those shows draw really, really well. And they do really well. And working with the school district, it's a win-win for everybody.
Oh, most definitely. Like, I don't think some people really realize that when you are able to get a partnership like that going and are able to, do stuff like that consistently, like, you get a show like that in front of kids, man, kids can definitely be a rowdy bunch when you get them excited about something.
Exactly.
That is awesome. I love hearing about places doing stuff like that, and
Yeah.
and giving back, because that's one thing that I haven't really had too much of an opportunity yet, but that's one thing that's constantly been on my mind, wanting to give back in some way, shape, or form, which I got some stuff in the works. So we'll see what comes of it. But hearing about places that are already doing that, I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's awesome, man.
Now, I have two categories here. One's a bit of a name game where I name off some people and we get some quick thoughts on them. And
Okay.
I try to theme it towards the guest as much as possible. And, with Texas, two of these people, big names from Texas when it comes to wrestling. And then also with the name Bam Bam, I also fit in two famous Bam Bams in wrestling history.
Okay.
One, the first one of my personal favorites. And, well, I don't have a figure of his back here, but I do have the Funko Pop, Bam Bam Bigelow.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was another one of those guys. He was just so far ahead of his time. Like I want to say, he was one of the first big guys that you saw moving the way he would or doing the moonsaults. And, he was definitely a pioneer for bigger guys because he showed that, not only can you be a monster and a beast, but you can be athletic. And just because you are a monster and a beast doesn't mean you shouldn't be athletic
Mm-hmm.
and show off, some of that athleticism. So
Oh, yeah.
big, yeah, huge, big, Bam Bam Bigelow fan, man.
Oh, God. Watching some of his matches, like the series that he had with Taz in the original ECW,
Oh
that
yeah,
was some nut. And, like, me growing up and seeing him, like, yeah, I was mesmerized by the flame tattoos on his head.
yeah, and that couldn't be any cooler, dude. Like not everybody can pull that off, but he 1010% pulled that off.
Oh, most definitely. Well, the next one I have here, another famous Bam Bam in wrestling history, Terry Bam Bam Gordy.
Yeah, another one, man. I've gotten to befriend Miranda
Mm.
Gordy and be around her quite often, and um, he was another one that just a pioneer. Um, I at first when I started, coming around her, I was a little nervous. I wasn't real sure how she would feel about the Bam Bam name. But she could be a cooler girl and a nicer. She's an absolute sweetheart, and I love being around her at every chance I get. But yeah, her dad was another pioneer, man. He really was.
Oh yeah, and speaking of her, she's actually popped up here. I'm from and based in Omaha, Nebraska. She's actually popped up here a few times, so I've been able to meet her and interact. So yeah, no, nothing but great things to say about her too.
Oh yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
next up, I am trying to. I had a reminder set up here behind me somewhere. You know what? I had this person last, but I'll go with it now. The one person in wrestling right now that I would get me starstruck. I don't know if I'd be able to get a word out. Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I think I would be right there with you, man. I've never had the opportunity to meet him. I hope I do one day. When I very first started watching wrestling, it was more towards the tail end of his career. But of course, through the WWE Network and whatever they have on Peacock now, I've gone back and watched everything I could of his.
Most same.
And even watching his documentary, everything that he went through. Most people when they break their neck like that, they're done. And he just refused to quit and refused to give up and figured out a way to work around it and had one hell of a career even after something catastrophic like that. So,
and
Stone Cold's the man.
Oh yeah, like I've joked that if I ever actually got to meet him, I don't know if I'd be able to get a word out. I built him up so much in my head that if I ever actually got in the same room with him, I would be doing that, rubbing my eyes to be like, wait,
is this really happening?
I'd be like, I'm sorry, but I have to shake your hand or something to feel that that's actually you.
Yeah.
And I've said it as well that if I were ever able to actually get him on the podcast, and I do this my 2 cents part of the podcast with a friend of mine, that I might continue with that. But as far as interview goes, if I ever got one with him, I could never do another one and I would be fine.
Yep. Can't top it.
Oh yeah. No, I've said it before. In my head, I'd be like, how the hell am I ever going to top that besides having him on again?
Yeah.
Most definitely. Well, last but not least, for the Texas part of this, having just recently got to watch the movie, and I feel especially with Texas, that it would be kind of a disservice if I didn't mention these people, the Von Erichs.
Oh yeah. Yeah, my grandfather and my great grandfather used to go to the sportatorium all the time, and so I actually went with my grandfather and saw the Iron Claw, and that was just a really cool moment to be able to watch it with him and the rest of my family, and James Beard, the referee, who was involved in the filming, and he's in the movie quite often. I've become really good friends with him. He's another mentor that I really look up to. I had several friends that did work on the film, so that was really cool. Not only seeing their story on a large platform like that, but seeing so many people that I know and care about getting that opportunity to tell that story was even cooler to me.
Oh, I can only imagine. I know I would have felt the same way. I know I kind of felt the same way when the TV show, it's not going anymore, but the TV show The Last Ship, the first season of that was filmed like very shortly after I got out of the Navy.
Okay.
And the ship used in that first season was my old ship.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So like I knew plenty of people that, in the background, and like I'd watch it with my parents and they'd be like, "Oh, do you remember that? Or you remember there? Or did you work with that?" And like, yeah.
Yeah,
I
sure did.
almost I almost had to start watching it without them so
Yeah,
I could watch it without all of that.
without the side commentary and actually pay attention.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I felt the same way with the people that I knew from my ship that were still there, that I imagine you felt with the friends of yours that got to be involved in the making of that movie. But great movie for anybody that
Oh yeah.
hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah,
Like,
it was incredible. I think they did a really good job capturing the story.
oh yeah,
I was really happy. Yeah, I was really happy with the way it turned out, because you never know, when it
yeah,
comes to film documentaries like that, you never know if it's going to quite do it justice. But I felt like A24 and everyone behind that production did a really incredible job.
oh yeah. I would like I've seen you know other documentaries on the story, and yet I would like to think it was a very good telling of the story. That, I mean, I've talked in other episodes about the ending, but that ending was emotional, man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the whole film was, and
Oh yeah, the whole
um,
film, yeah, but especially that ending for me, just there was something about that ending that just got me.
oh yeah, yeah. It's a good one, man.
All right. Now I have some random questions. Some might be wrestling related, some might not be, some might have absolutely nothing to do with anything we've talked about so far. So I give
Gotcha.
you the question, you give me first answer that pops in your head. First one,
Okay.
craziest in match moment for you.
Maybe not even in match, but I was doing extra work for WWE, and I was in the ring with Cody Rhodes when Brock Lesnar's music hit,
Oh.
and I
Oh, I think we're cutting.
hear the action. I still get goosebumps thinking about it.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. No, actually being in there for a moment like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was incredible. That was probably one of the craziest experiences I've had in a good way.
Oh, I understandable. I know. Good Lord. I'd be having goosebumps in the middle of that myself.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Now, you're all, this next question, it kind of fits with the setting that we have for you right now, with, being on a bit of a road trip for a show.
Oh yeah.
Everybody has, I know I have some road trip playlists that, help pass the time when I'm not doing a podcast like we're doing right now. But
Mm-hmm.
what would you say is a song or two that you would have on one for you?
Honestly, man, I I'm I'm 27 years old, but I sound like a 47-year-old man when I say I listen to XM radio. And I keep it on channel 39. It's Hair Nation, so I'm a huge 80s hairband guy.
Ain't nothing wrong with
That's
that.
Yep, that's my jam, man. So most of the time I'll just have it on that, and that way I don't have to think about it. I just let the song circulate through. But really, anything rock wise, like I mean, I'm wearing a Faster Pussycat shirt right now. So um, yeah, Channel 39, Hair Nation. I'll go back and forth between Hair Nation. There's Ozzy's Boneyard. There's several good rock stations on there. So typically, yeah, I have the XM going.
Oh yeah, nothing wrong with that. I know. Speaking of Hair Nation, it kind of related. I was at the Packers Vikings game on New Year's Eve in Minneapolis, and the halftime show was hair a hair band tribute cover thing.
Oh, really? Okay.
So yeah, they did everything from Kiss, AC/DC, and just was like a whole list, and it was something to see. Like I've seen them advertised here in Omaha actually. So actually, not even realizing I was going to be seeing them for the halftime show of that game was like, oh, so this is what I've been hearing about.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I bet you that was a good time.
Oh yeah, hell, the whole game for me was a fun time because my team ended up winning. But you know, I'm a big cheesehead, so the fact that they won.
Gotcha. Well, I'm a Cowboys fan, man. So we're still a little bitter at all that, but
Yeah, no, I've definitely had some Cowboys fans on since the playoffs, and yeah, I I try to joke with like one time I even had a Packers hat on. I'm like, don't be mad at me. But hell, even at that game with the Vikings fans, I was a little worried because I've known some people that haven't had pleasant experiences. Me, I did not have a bad time at all.
yeah, yeah, I'm sure it's one of those things, man. If you go into it looking for trouble, you'll find it. If you go into it just wanting to sit down and enjoy the game, then more than likely that's what will happen.
Like, I was kind of halfway in both. I was expecting it, but I was going in just wanting to sit back and enjoy the game, and that's what ended up happening.
Yeah, well, good deal.
Oh, yeah. Now, we're on the heels of another WrestleMania 40. It's shaping up to be a good one. Everybody has a favorite match or moment. What would you say is one of those for you?
Um, Ric Flair's retirement match with Shawn. I can't remember the exact WrestleMania it is.
That was a classic one.
But that's one of those matches. My girlfriend is not a wrestling fan whatsoever. But if I sat her down and I was like, watch this. And I kind of, I showed her the opening promo package between Shawn and Rick. And dude, by the end of the match, she was on the edge of her seat watching. Like I couldn't break her focus. So that just goes to show how good those two were.
Oh, yeah.
They grab somebody's attention who is not a wrestling fan at all. And by the end of it, she couldn't look away. And she bit every single false finish. It was really cool. So if I had to pick one, that's probably going to be one
Hey,
of my favorites.
that definitely fits. It's a classic one. I know some of mine range from Seth Rollins' cash in of the Money in the Bank during that time at I believe it was the 49ers stadium.
31. Yeah.
That was
WrestleMania 31.
That was a classic. The Stone Cold Bret Hart submission match, classic.
Yeah.
And hell, I'll admit there's a bunch of Stone Cold in my list. Showing you the Stone Cold mark I am. Anyways, some of the stuff behind me, I like talking about hobbies that I have. I got Funkos, I got wrestling figures, I got Ninja Turtle stuff. What would you say is a hobby that you have, if any?
So really the only thing outside of wrestling, I'm a huge motocross fan.
Okay.
I grew up riding and racing motocross. My brother and I did. I have a younger brother who's 5 years younger than me. So We had a track in our backyard. We always grew up riding and racing together. So that's probably, I follow the professional supercross and motocross circuits very, very closely. Like, dude, I even play fantasy supercross. Like, I'm invested. I am in. So that is my sport, outside of wrestling. Football is cool, baseball is cool, yeah, sure, whatever. But motocross and supercross, that's really, really my jam.
Hey, that's awesome. I might not be as into it as you, but yeah, when I'm, I'll watch, and yeah, there's some of the speed of it all, and
Yeah,
just it can get pretty wild. So yeah, I can totally respect that.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Now, with the name of a show like I have, I would feel weird if I didn't have this question in here. Favorite drink, whether it be alcoholic or non, or one of each?
Alcoholic wise, man, I'm going through a really bad rainstorm, so I don't know if that's going to affect the audio or not. Jack Daniels, by far, is my favorite alcohol of choice. Don't have it too often, but when I do, that'll be my go-to. And then honestly, man, as cheesy and lame as it sounds, I really like water.
Hey,
So
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that at all. I know I could probably use to drink a little more of that myself. So,
yeah, ever since I was like 15 or 16 years old, that's around the time I started really getting into working out. So I've carried a gallon of water with me just about everywhere I go. I literally got it in the back seat with me right now.
Gotcha. All right. Now, luckily, you mentioned with the rainstorm you're going through right now. Luckily, we are almost done. So, last but not least, here, best advice you have for anybody wanting to get into wrestling.
Get in the absolute best physical shape you can before you start.
Yeah. I gave the same advice to people looking to enlist in the military. I'm like, before you even think about going to boot camp, get your ass physically ready.
Yep. Yeah, don't. It's, and I'm sure it's similar to, you can't go to boot camp to get fit. You need to be fit before you enter boot camp. And it's the same thing with wrestling. Like, all you're going to do is waste your time and hurt yourself if you're not in the best physical condition. And that doesn't mean you have to be ripped with a six pack, but you need to be in your best physical condition before you even attempt to step through those ropes.
Oh yeah, that is definitely good advice, because hell, I remember participating in a pro wrestling boot camp that literally was held in an event center attached to the same hotel I was put in the night before I left for boot camp. And
wow.
I just laughed that one, that I left that building to go to one boot camp that I was getting paid. You get paid while you're at boot camp, but I was getting paid to go to one, and now I'm paying to go to another.
At the same location.
At the same location, yeah. And, I was walking funny for about a week after that.
Yeah. Yeah, people don't understand, every that ring hurt. Hitting the ropes hurts.
Yep, hitting the ropes, definitely, yeah. Those things, especially the tighter that they are, put together in there when you're doing it, yeah, nuts.
Exactly.
Well, that is about all I have. But before we go, where can people find you social media wise? So if they don't already have their eyes on you, they can go ahead and get them there.
Yeah, man. Just look me up: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you just look up Bam Malone, I'll be the one and only one. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm on all of them. So go holler at your boy.
Hey, that, and you know what? That helps when you're the only one because it makes it that much simpler to put together.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, like I said, that is about all I have. Thank you again. Best of luck tonight. I hope you get that first win against your opponent, retain that title, and hell, maybe next time you come on, we can end up seeing that that title of yours.
Sounds good, man.